You've checked every box, you've signed all the BAAs, so why did that enterprise health system just ghost your sales team? Today, we're talking about the gap between what you say on paper and the reality on your servers. Stay tuned. Back to the HIPAA Insider Show brought to you by HIPAA Vault. I'm your host, Adam Z, and we're here to make HIPAA compliance and cloud security accessible for everyone. Before we dive in, do us a huge favor and hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. And let's get started. So today I am joined by Larry Trotter II. Larry is the founder of Inherent Security, where he helps health tech companies stay ahead of threats and HIPAA with smarter cybersecurity. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good, man. By the way, that was a great introduction.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, well, I've been really looking forward to this one because you have a great reputation for looking past the check boxes when it comes to security. So
Thanks.
yeah, fascinated to talk to you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's jump right in.
Okay, cool. So, Larry, your bio, I've been checking out your LinkedIn as well. Your bio says you don't just follow the rules, you prefer rewriting them securely. So, you've spent over a decade working behind the scenes in security and innovation for patient care. Can you walk us through that journey a little bit? What was a pivotal moment or specific gap that you saw in the market? And that made you realize that you needed to bring a different kind of cybersecurity partnership to the market, and a little bit about the background and what led you to the birth of Inherent Security.
Right. Yeah. So where that comes from, rewriting the rules securely, it started in essentially my last corporate job before I started my company, Inherent Security. And I was essentially the deputy CISO to the CISO there. And I was brought on because this is the point in time where security had already been, a big deal. But for some reason, I guess pretty obvious in healthcare, it was lagging behind. And, it started to really sprout out, if you will. So I was brought on, and it felt like I was brought on to check a box, because essentially the CISO at the time was really overseeing network operations. So, you can call him the CTO, if you will. That's what he truly was. HIPAA starts getting more mainstream. They give him the title, and he figures, well, I'm the only person doing this, and I'm managing network guys and the IT team. We need to bring somebody in here, right? Here comes Larry. So I step in and was literally the security team. Right. And so we already kind of know how that goes. So that's where it really came from with rewriting rules. The job paid well, but it was more about making a change and being responsible for something, right? Being responsible for change in a good way. And it just wasn't happening. It was just politics and really to check a box. And I know where that can lead you in terms of cybersecurity. In my corporate career, I had worked at Visa, Verizon, and you can imagine security in these environments. They have a decent number of folks and teams. I was a part of the threat monitoring team 24/7. They had a pen team, network security guys. So the whole shebang. So I know what a security program looks like, and that's what it takes to really make sure that an organization is secure. So when I fell into that role, it was just a complete change, almost like a shock. And I could tell I couldn't make a difference. So, that's where rewriting the rules came from. And when I really realized that compliance was, I like to call it almost commercialization, if you will, from a security perspective to, say that you're being secure.
Moving from the deputy CISO role, how did that lead into Inherent Security, and how long? Tell us a little bit about Inherent Security. How long that's been going?
Right. Yeah. So after that, I had worked with this other team on a project for about a year. It was for a hospital here in the Washington, D.C. area. And we came to do a gap assessment on the security practices. And again, it was probably a year right after I had left my 4-year stint with nonprofit healthcare that I just spoke about. I was helping them out for a year. And again, I was the security team. at a major hospital in Washington D.C. So you can imagine how things would go there. And I saw so many things that were, just it was just so far behind
Mm.
and lagging. So after that role had ended, I always knew I was going to start my company anyway, right? So since I had fell into healthcare at that point of my life, I just figured, hey, okay, now why don't I just focus with my company on health tech companies
Yeah, build from your
and
strengths. Yeah.
it's built, yeah, build from my, I don't even know if I would call it strength. My strengths, I would say my strengths is cybersecurity in general because I've been,
Okay.
that's where my career spans. But it was just more like since I had landed in this market at a time where it was, mainstream from a security
Mhm.
perspective, it made sense for the transition and for me to focus on that. But it's funny actually working clients outside of that industry as well too. But our main focus is within healthcare.
Mm. Yeah, and that perspective, I think, is exactly why the topic responses versus reality
Right.
when it comes to security questionnaires is really critical. We've seen questionnaires that have massive 200 plus rows in them,
Right.
security questionnaires in spreadsheets that a lot of startups that we work with have to navigate.
Right.
Our compliance team here is makes it very very easy for the uh, the responsible security person within the startup, usually it's the founder,
Right.
to navigate. So we have like self-help tools with like lists of like resources that they can use when they log into the portal with HIPAA Vault to
Okay.
kind of get the information they need to fill out security questionnaires. But
That's pretty cool.
like Larry, in your experience, why is there such a massive disconnect between what companies and startups check yes on, the actual reality of the security posture?
Right. So it's really pretty straightforward. It's the deal. They want to seal the
Yeah.
deal, right? So this is how the process goes. Your sales team, or if you're a small startup, you're going out to essentially find clients, right? You
Mhm.
talk to that whoever the person you're selling to essentially is, and they say, okay, we like the technology, we think it's a use case for it, we see some good ROI. Now we have to hand it over to our security team. In a highly regulated market like healthcare, you have to be HIPAA compliant, right? So that's where the brakes can pump, and
Mm.
that's where a lot of health tech teams get, I guess, for lack of a better word, frightened, if you will, because they know that they have to meet these requirements too for the deal to go through. The company is
Right.
depending on it. So they're just checking the boxes. Now, in reality, you don't have to be 100% yes on everything. In fact, I've been on both sides. If I see everything and it's 100%, that raises a flag for me because no one's 100%, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be 100%. And what I say is always to tell the truth, right? If you're missing something, just tell the truth. And as long as it's on your roadmap, that's a viable answer versus lying. And it's all about trust. That's what HIPAA
Yeah.
is creating trust between you and the health system. So if they can't trust you through the questionnaires, why would they want to do business with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And it seems like the enterprise buyers at big health systems and providers have developed a bit of a sixth sense for this. They can fish out, when companies are not quite up to scratch, and also when they're maybe not being completely truthful. So when a major buyer reviews a vendor, what are the trust markers or the maturity markers, if you like, those kind of subtle signs like that tell the buyer that the vendor is truly secure versus just well prepped for the test?
So that's a really good question. And very mature buyers do really, dig in and do the cross checks. So to answer your question is having policies that actually reflect your organization and not just can. It's gotten even worse during the whole generative AI era because
Mm,
now everybody can ask AI to spit out a policy, which is one of the reasons I think due diligence is going to get even tougher, in this year and the
Yeah.
oncoming years because of that. But having consistent policies that actually match what you say. Now, if you get a mature buyer, and I actually experienced this within the last few weeks, they'll look at your policies and whatever other documentation that they ask for, they'll pay attention there and do these cross checks. And he said it was a mistake, but he said, wait a minute, you guys said this on the policy, but over here you say you're doing X, Y, and Z. There's some inconsistencies that's going on. So that shows maturity, having consistent policies and documentation across everything. So your answers are consistent. Something else,
Yeah.
this is a real big one, is a risk assessment. Having a risk assessment. It's actually the number one finding when it comes to OCR and the HIPAA security investigations, failure to conduct a thorough risk assessment. So that really shows in maturity because you're looking for the threats and vulnerabilities, assigning risk scores, and also documenting those risks in a registrar that's saying, hey, we've identified this for X, Y, and Z, and we plan to fix these with, whatever your mitigation dates are. That being said, when you are building out that risk registrar, don't say you're going to fix something 5 years later. It has to
Yeah.
be something
Yeah.
that's all reasonable, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's another big maturity sign. And have a CISO. Nothing
Yeah.
speaks security more unless you take it serious and to have a CISO on board. If you can't have a full-time CISO, hire a VCISO. But that really shows that your maturity and security is cybersecurity or compliance is embedded within your company's culture.
Yeah, most definitely couldn't agree more. You mentioned AI there. Now we can't really talk about modern health tech stacks without talking about artificial intelligence, right? It's the
Right.
big elephant in every security review right now. So how is AI changing the game? And if you could touch maybe on for changing the game for both the better and the worse in health
Mhm.
security. Are you seeing vendors automate the defenses, or is it mostly just the other side, bad actors finding a faster way to hack into systems?
There's going to be, let me say it this way, the AI graveyard is not going to have enough room this year.
Wow.
It's not going to be enough room in the graveyard. They're going to have to, use another plot of land, put up more headstones. And it's goes back to healthcare really being an industry where trust is one of their primary concerns. AI, they're very healthcare wants to adopt AI, but they're very, very wary of it and really honking down on it. From a good perspective of things, I think on the healthcare side, it's going to make things way more efficient. Right now, starting off, I think the best use cases are low risk admin tasks that give doctors back their time and they're
Yeah.
able to provide more patient care, billing, those types of low risk things. Right before, I think healthcare needs to work on that before they start looking at some of the high risk use cases. For a health tech, it's definitely a chance to differentiate yourself within health systems, right? Whatever, if you have an existing product that's out there, bolting on AI in a secure and trusted way can help you, expand even more and really help your product sell in that fashion. But the downsides are security is really big, and re- it plays a real big part in developing AI. Now we hear a lot about AI governance, but it's two completely different things when we talk about AI governance and AI security. I don't hear anything about AI security, right? So it has to be both because you can be transparent, you can have model validation, be able to explain how it works. That's all great, but if the system isn't functioning correctly because somebody's poisoned it or
Mm.
somebody's taking data from the system, then that governance piece doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything at the end of the day, right? So it goes back to safety and trust. So when they're building these systems, this is why compliance and security has to be embedded within a company's culture, because once it's embedded in the culture, it drives the way you make products. And if you're not thinking that way, you're just bolting AI on, not securing it. You might have the governance aspect of it, but your model likely still has flaws, especially in these early days. And the bad side of
Yeah.
healthcare is another avenue for them to or another reason for them to have a breach. We hear about 2 or 3 breaches every week now. It's just another avenue to do that. And I believe someone posted this past week, it was it was a health system was breached due to AI, an AI vendor.
Wow.
So yeah, it's no surprise, but yeah,
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 inevitable, really. Yeah.
inevitable, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about gaps. So, what are the most frequent gaps when it comes to HIPAA that you see in digital health today that are almost never caught by your standard security questionnaires from buyers, but they do cause major headaches during an actual audit or an incident, God forbid?
Now, the mature buyers will ask for a risk assessment, but many don't.
Mhm.
That's number one. I almost never see, a risk assessment, and that's a huge HIPAA gap. It's a requirement as well. And the second biggest is continuous monitoring. So you might have these controls in place. You might be doing security at some level, but if you're not monitoring it, then none of it really it matters.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to say it doesn't matter. It's really hard to prevent something if you're not monitoring your network on a continuous basis. What I usually see is the health tech companies will say they're looking at logs from a manual perspective, or they will have health alerts turned on, notifications, but not really looking from a threat perspective, seeing what's actively going on in their network, looking at the outbound connection, what type of data is going out, even DLP, right? Having DLP turned on because they're dealing with patient data. This is very important.
Data loss prevention. Yeah.
Yeah, seeing where the data is flowing and ensuring the integrity of the data. Those are really like there's others, but those are really huge gaps that I see consistent over all the majority of health tech companies.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And here at HIPAA Vault, we handle the infrastructure side beyond just the BAA that you can get maybe with a cloud provider like AWS or Google. We
You have to, yeah.
shift the responsibility a bit more and take a bit more of that burden when it
Yeah.
comes to the security aspects. But yeah, a huge part of compliance is cultural, more on the startup side of things, where security, let's say, often feels like more of a hindrance or a bottleneck.
Right.
How do you advise companies to build security that moves and flows and works like clockwork without slowing down the innovation of the product?
Startups have the biggest advantage because they're startups. So
Yeah,
they should be embedding compliance within the foundation of building the business, and right there at the beginning. That's the best way you do it. When you're 50, 500 person company and you haven't really embedded it within the culture, it's hard because, like you say, it's a cultural shift. It's really habit, right?
yeah,
And this is like we're all human. Once you start to throw a wrench in someone's habit, it creates friction. What they
yeah,
perceive as friction, right? And they automatically don't want to deal with it because it's not the systematic routine that they're used to. And that's what cybersecurity can do. So if you're a startup, you embed that in the beginning. Everything is just a part of the process, like everything else is. Let's talk about secure development. Everybody's trying to ship fast, right? You build the code out. When you have security embedded, you do those checks in the beginning before the code, is released to QA or production, whatever. And you're running the scans, looking for the vulnerability, saying you find X, Y, and Z, whatever your risk tolerance is. You send it back to development to fix those. Scan it again. Everything looks okay. Now you shift to moving to production. But this, you've created a natural flow, and this already built within your habits, so it's routine. And now, since you think like this in this development process, you're going to do that do that with any other processes within your department as the business grows, because it's
yeah,
just a natural part of business, right? You'll have you'll talk about security stand-up calls. So as you grow, again, new projects, you're embedding AI. Okay, what do we think about security from these guys? It's embedded within the culture. Now you do the opposite of that, and you check boxing it off. And when you start growing from a 5-person company to, you know, a 30-person company, and you have your systems have grown, again, you're throwing cybersecurity into the development process. You're used to getting things done within a week or two, and now it looks like it's going within a month, and a lot of that's due to friction because people don't want to do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that monkey wrench really just creates that friction, and it makes it a lot more challenging as you grow. Just the short answer
Yeah.
is embedded.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Embedded culture of security is right on the point. And as you scale as well, if you've embedded and ingrained that security mindset into your first employee, that is inherited like throughout the organization with new hires as they come in and everything. So I agree, it's
Right.
definitely
And
the
and
way
one
to
thing I
go.
want to piggyback
Yeah,
off that, yeah, just like anything, if there's a specific culture, if you are a fun and collaborative culture, and that's what you uh, make obvious to whoever you're hiring, and you continue to hire like that, you're going to get people who, you know, have those characteristics. Same thing. You're exactly right with security. If
yeah,
you know, say like, hey, you know, we like to have fun and we're very collaborative, but we also take cybersecurity, compliance and privacy, that's close to our heart as well too. You're embedding that within the culture. You're right.
yeah. And then if you're not necessarily having, you touched on the development itself of an application. If you're not hiring internal developers, really important to have external developers that have that same, or whether it's developers or other contractors, but that have that same culture of security. I'm talking next week to Ghazanfar Mansour. I think you were on one of his shows
Yeah,
recently,
he's a good
and
guy. Yeah.
I've spoken to him a little bit. Looking forward to diving in a bit deeper. But he does the development side of things, developing for HIPAA. So that's also a big aspect of this. So tune in next week for that episode. Larry, it's been really, really insightful, and it's clear that the reality always wins over the responses when it comes to security questionnaires in the long run, at
Right.
least. Before we let you go, where can the audience find you, learn more about you, anything you got to plug? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Larry Trotter II on LinkedIn, or they can go to our website, www.inherentsecurity.com. We have a lot of resources up there for health tech companies that they can use. We have a compliance guide for health tech leaders. We have some AI readiness workbooks for companies that already have embedded in AI, or they're thinking about embedding AI, and also understanding what healthcare systems are looking for when it comes to AI as well. So yeah, we have some resources in there. So yeah,
Great.
please, if anybody has thinking about beefing up their security and investing at it, yeah, please reach out. Inherent Security.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll be sure to include those links in the description below. Larry, yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. For those of you still watching, if you're tired of the smoke and mirrors and want a cloud partner that actually handles the technical safeguards so you can answer those questionnaires with total confidence, visit us at HIPAAvault.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.